for almost everybody. And then when you add shaft lean, which the majority of them have lean built in, further makes the problem worse, is they aim left. So onset shifts a lot of people are going to aim left already, and then anytime you add lean to a shaft, it makes the face look closed relative to the shaft. So I would say if you read any lab thing on GolfWorks or any other forum in complaint, they're like, oh, I pull them. And it's like, yeah, because you can't aim it. Like, it's going where you pointed it, but you pointed it way left.
So, and I got this a lot in putting when I was writing a putter design program, not designing heads, but a fitting program that said, well, are you masking somebody's the way that they move by designing them a putter that will compensate for their movement? I'm sure that if you haven't gotten it, I'm sure that people will come at you with that. What would be your response to them?
Yeah, to me, there's two different categories. So I usually test both their actual aim and the skill of their ability to aim. So I use Sam Putt Lab and a couple other technology to very, very accurately measure what they're doing. So you're telling me a guy can hit a 3-iron 260 yards out of the middle, but he can't hit a putt 4 feet out of the middle of the face? Like, it makes zero. It's the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my entire life.
Okay, yeah, we are live. Counters counting. It's always a good thing when the technology is working. I always get very scared because I'm about as tech challenged as anybody is on the planet. But here at Dan Carraher, I hope I said your name right. I'd like to think I get names pretty good most of the time. But since we just met a few minutes ago in the pre-show, I hope I got your name right, Dan. So correct me if I'm wrong.
Nope, nailed it.
But I was very happy when you said you'd come on, because as we talked earlier, I got a lot of friends, or a number of friends. Billy Sampson met you up at the Golf Pride. I guess that they had at the factory. Rob Stokey, who's down at Long Cove, said the same thing. He was really impressed with your knowledge and information. I trust those guys tremendously, and they said, you got to have this guy on the show. I said, sure. And I looked up your information. It's very, very interesting. But you have a very unique background, to say the least. I mean, you're an instructor, you're a tour coach, you're a custom putter designer, you make your own, I believe you do your own milling. So there's a lot of compelling lanes to explore in today's episode. It's almost difficult for me to pick one, but I guess it's if we did, because you have a lot of posts on your putting page on Instagram, and you do a lot of very cool designs. So I guess I'd start with what was the draw to get you into putter design? Were you artistic as a kid and growing up and just gravitated towards that? Or is it something that engineering minded, or how did you come across that?
I would say a little bit of everything. So like, I went to school, I didn't finish, but I went to 3 years of college for mechanical and aerospace engineering. And then turned pro after my junior year. So did not finish. But always interested in golf club design. Always, like, I'm very particular when it comes to my own clubs. And putters was actually like my biggest weakness, was putting when playing. And so always trying to figure it out. So kind of tinkered with a bunch of stuff. And then when I stopped playing and started teaching, I actually was the original rep for Scratch Golf when they decided to get into putters while teaching. So had some input on design and whatnot, but had no real desire to make putters. Like, I had a CNC I also make high-end folding knives. And so I had all the tools to make putters. But really what pushed it was fitting people for putters, and then, like, they weren't available for purchase. So like, what someone fit into, you couldn't buy at the retail level. Essentially, like, when Adele stopped being the Adele that it was when it was originally made, and some of the other manufacturers, like, you couldn't just, I mean, it's funny, but like, you can't get a answer style shaped putter that's naked without a line on it pretty much anywhere. let alone something with like a sight dot, or God forbid you want something that has like a line parallel to the face. Um, there's just not options. And then the growing issue nowadays is getting putter heads that are light enough. So like a lot of putters, their starting weight is in the 365
Yeah,
range.
they've gotten very
When
heavy. Yep.
yeah, when like a majority of the tour players are putting with like Tiger's putter is like 326 grams. A lot of guys like the ping putter they made Bubba for Augusta was like 318. Like a lot of, I would say there's more putters sub 360 on tour by probably a pretty large margin, especially when we're talking blade putters than above. Yet almost everything on the market is 360 or higher that they actually sell. Um, so especially with, I do a lot of junior golf, have pretty prolific junior academy, um, and fitting kids into what would need lighter putters and they just weren't around. And then at my, where I used to teach, I actually had a CNC in the bay next to the teaching bay, but it was actually making at that time knives, and it just became a actually fit one of my tour players for a putter that the his sponsor was not willing to make him. And so then I said, like, give me a couple hours and we made it for him. And so the first putter that was made in my shop actually was played on tour, and then kind of went from there. Like it basically came out of a process of like need. Like people needed what they couldn't buy, and saw the hole in the market, and I like making things, so it was kind of a no brainer.
Harleston's takes its name from Harleston Green, the site of the very first golf course in America, right in the heart of present-day downtown Charleston. In the late 1700s, Scottish merchants brought the game to this historic stretch of land, planting the seeds of golf's American roots. For them, naming the brand after this iconic landmark is more than a nod to history. It's a tribute to the spirit of tradition, innovation, and Southern charms that defines Charleston itself. Their roots in this city run deep, and they continue to shape the way clothing is designed, built, and shares Harleston's with the world. Harleston's believes premium apparel starts with premium materials. From performance fabrics to tailored fits and timeless color palettes, every Harleston's piece is designed to meet the highest standards on the course and beyond. Their commitment to quality isn't just a standard, it's a promise they stand behind in every stitch. Please visit www.harlestons.com and don't forget to use promo code GOLF360POD. Yeah, you saw an opening. I think in knowing some people that have worked for some big OEMs, not that they were decision makers, but they were in the room sometimes where these decisions were made. And as we've progressed over time, where there used to be more variety, if you look at an old Palmer Personal, some of them had most of them had dots as a sight line. Looked at the Wilson 8802, they mostly had lines, but there was also a line parallel to the face. There was all kind of a lot more variety. And when I talked to some of these people and I said, did accounting play too much into the decision as
Yeah.
far as the variety? And they said, yeah. You get somebody looking at bottom line only, and they lose the uniqueness or the creativity of product design, because they're looking at how much they're going to have to hold in inventory, how much they're going to have to mass produce, et cetera, et cetera. But there is a cost to that, and it makes openings for someone like yourself that does some very great work uh, to move into some of that space.
Yeah, and like I started seeing like Toulon had the garage for a little bit, shut it down. Ping has options through their works, but they're still limited. Like you can't just get whatever you want, and they won't necessarily do everything. And they're still constrained by the what the OEM putter is from like a weight perspective. Like there's still some constraints. Whereas like on almost every putter I make is made to order. So like I c- literally change the CAD on almost every putter, which obviously doesn't scale to like major OEMs nearly as well. Um, but like if someone orders a putter, like even Scotty on tour historically is basically every putter is a 350. So someone wants 340, it's grinded off the sole, and the sole
Uh-huh.
keeps getting thinner just to make it. Whereas like if someone orders a putter from me that's 340, the CAD is changed to where the putter is actually designed to be at 340. Like I'm not just hacking off the sole or thinning out the face massively to get it to hit some number.
Hmm.
And I think that's the benefit of kind of the made to order versus like even Camerons on 009s and stuff that are selling for ridiculous prices. are- Even the ones used on tour are largely essentially blanks that are pre-made that then they kind of make work at a certain weight. Um, but it's not the ideal situation.
Do you think, or what would be the reasoning you would, in your opinion, that the manufacturers are making putters so much heavier, or
Um,
essentially going what might be considered the wrong way?
yeah, so I think it's 100% because of how putters are bought. So there's a lot of data and research that will tell you that if you get a heavier putter head, it is easier to start the ball online. Um, but there is a massive reduction in feedback and therefore speed control. Um, and usually the negative part and the loss of speed control is far greater negative impact on like strokes gained
Hmm.
than starting it slightly better online because the hole's wide enough to fit 3 golf balls in it. You don't actually have to be perfect online, especially if the speed is good. So good speed increases the size of the hole, whereas poor speed shrinks it. And so, but because most stores, whether it's PGA Tour, Superstore, Evan Watts, it doesn't matter. Um, you're not hitting putts over 10 feet. So, like a lot of people are hitting a 6 to 8 foot putt into a store, and if it starts better online, it's going to go. And a lot of those holes are worn to where the edges of the holes slope in, so the hole's effectively bigger than a real golf hole, anyways. And so, like basically, if they can start it online, that's the putter they buy, and then they can not knowing that if they buy this 370-gram putter, but then take it to the first time they go play, they three putt 3 of the first 6 holes because they can't get the speed right. And then they just blame it on themselves. But like, I don't think they care because the manufacturer and PGA Tour Superstore just made a sale. So,
Right. There is no. I used to do a lot of things with putting, and people that used to say, "Why should I listen to you?" And I said, "Well, first of all, I'm not selling any brand. The only way that I get repeat business is if you improve first and foremost. Second is if I give you specs for a putter, I give you the specs. I don't give you the brand. You can go order any putter you want to off. You want Ping, you want Titleist, you want you name it, Lab. I really don't care who you order. So there is no benefit to me outside of your game improving, and that changed a lot of their perspective. That started to develop some trust, at least from the first step. But to your point about like the weight of the putter, the one that used to drive me crazy when the longer grips came out, the 15 inch, the 17
uh,
inch, 21 inch, um, they would all come in and say, well, I can start the ball online now, but my distance control sucks. I say, well, yeah, you've got so much mass down below your hands. What do you expect? So I used to cut those grips way back up closer to their hands, and their ability to control the distance skyrocketed immediately. I said, okay, now we got to work on phase control because you were cheating before. But I- and just listening to you, it's like most people, even good golfers, don't understand the subtle changes, head design, grip length, grip, all these things that go involved into a club that can affect. It's not always the archer. Sometimes it is the arrow.
yeah, I did a fitting the other day that, and it's not even the most exaggerated, but just by changing the putter they had in their hand, saw a 7-degree difference in path and obviously massive difference. I think it was like 3 or 4 degree difference in face angle at contact, and the shape of their stroke changed completely, and there was zero discussion of mechanics whatsoever. And then also, when I do putter fittings, they don't see the data, and I actually
Mhm.
stop the ball off the face, so they do not even get to see the ball roll. And so that change in stroke was purely based on the putter. Like they swore they were doing the same thing, but it's kind of how eyes and mind kind of react to the variables that are put in front of them, that all of that changed, even though they would swear on everything they own that they made the exact same stroke every single time.
I remember when, if you remember the Titleist, I think it was the LFE driver. This is going back
Mhm.
quite a number of years ago, and if I remember right, they put more weight out towards the toe in order to eliminate the hook. And I asked one of the reps and the designers was with them. I said, "What happens if that toe gets moving just a little bit faster too soon than the heel?" I said, "Now it's going to close down even more, and they're not only going to hook it, but they're going to hook it worse." But one of the things that I had learned later on, but the discussion revolved around, was if you get too much weight on the toe, then it's going to droop more, and now the face is going to have a hell of a lot harder time to close. Um, and I got to thinking about that as it related to people's swings. I said, are we really making someone better if we're giving them a crutch to work around their uh, lack of skill? So, and I got this a lot in putting when I was writing a putter design program, not designing heads, but a fitting program that said, well, are you masking somebody's the way that they move by designing them a putter that will compensate for their movement? Uh, I'm sure that if you haven't gotten it, I'm sure that people have will come at you with that. What would be your response to them? Because I never had one that I was comfortable with to tell them.
Uh,
It's not a masking. It's helping them develop while they're still developing skill.
yeah, to me, there's two different categories. So I usually test both their actual aim and the skill of their ability to aim. So I
Hmm.
use Sam Putt Lab and a couple other technology to very, very accurately measure what they're doing. But then I also just test with a laser to see if they, so like good anecdotal story is Tiger. Everybody know, well, everybody that does know knows that he aims pretty significantly right on a straight putt. Um, but if you test his ability to aim with a laser and just say aim at that, he's dead on. So like he's not aiming right on accident. Like he's aiming right to match his kind of, he likes to release the toe of the putter and feel it.
Hmm.
So like everything matches. Same reason why the toe of his putter's up in the air. It's not like Cameron can't bend it flatter to make it, is that that matches with his like everything kind of works so it's kind of a bunch of wrongs that cancel out to make it right,
Yes.
but it's extremely consistent. Like his consistency score on Sam is off the charts and one of the highest recorded, which is the most important stat. Is even if you're among the best putters, they're actually usually technically average to slightly above average, but their ability to repeat what they do is the part that's special and kind of off the charts. Where actually some of the worst putters I see have really high technique scores and really good technique scores, but they're so obsessed with the technique that they actually can't repeat it twice. And so
Hmm.
their consistency is terrible. And they keep wanting to fix it with a technical issue. And in reality, the real issue is actually the more they let go. So if they even got slightly worse technically, they'd actually be a better putter. So to me, it's kind of very situational based. I generally like someone to aim their putter well, unless we test that they, one, can aim it, but their pattern chooses to do something differently.
Right.
Um, but to do that, you have to be at an extremely high level. Like the tour player I made that putter for, um, aims left, and we left it there. The putter we fit into aimed more left because he liked to do a forward press. So like when measured, it was aimed left, but mid stroke, like he basically opened it as soon as he started the stroke mechanics, and his consistency score is like that. It was consistently mid 90s on Sam, which is kind of unheard. Like he has the highest consistency score, and I have 50 different Sam reports that I've ever seen,
It's very
and it's
interesting.
every time. So like it's if someone does something at a very high level, I'll work within that. But if they're bad, let's make it as simple as possible and get them a putter that they aim pretty darn close to zero. And you see it chicken or the egg. Like when you change someone's aim, their stroke changes
Mhm.
dramatically. So like the player I was talking about earlier had almost like a left-handed looking stroke. So it was like a reverse arc. Um, and he was heavily left-hand bias and was basically like pushing it and reverse arcing it to get it back online. And as soon as we got a putter that he aimed well, he actually aimed it like point 0.2 right, like barely right of the hole. Uh, Normal arc and face actually started closing at a fairly rapid rate through impact with no talk of mechanics whatsoever. Took like 3 putts and his brain adjusted.
Yeah, it's amazing when you put somebody into a movement pattern that is more identifiable for them intrinsically, as opposed to trying to fit them in something that doesn't fit, or in this instance, what that person had there, it's going to cause their stroke to do certain things. And once you get them something that fits them, how fast the brain and body will adapt, and things. As a coach and instructor, and even a fitter, you're watching this and you're like, yes, that's correct. Everything works without flaw or with minimal flaw. And it's nice to see, and when it happens. Kind of like when people meet their spouse. How did you know that your grandma? How did you know you're going to marry grandpa? I don't know. I just knew. When I saw him, I knew. It's very similar way when you're watching somebody and you get them the right tool. In this instance, a putter, that things are working correctly.
Yeah, and I'm brand agnostic. Like when one of my juniors came in for a fitting, obviously I make putters.
Hmm.
Um, but he's one of the top juniors in the country, and that didn't already send some putters. And I'm fine with that. And so we fit him in, and we found a putter within their catalog that he can aim well and fits his stroke. And like I fit him for a competitor's putter. Like I don't have I tell people like I'm not a good salesman because I don't sell anything. What I tell people is like I'm gonna fit you, and if you can find it somewhere else cheaper, go for it. But um, I think my price point is as good as anyone in the country, especially when you start looking at available options
Hmm.
and everything else that go with it. Like I am literally 20 to 30% the cost of like what it is to go through Ping's works department.
Yeah, as someone who's heavily involved in putting, would have to assume that you're fairly knowledgeable about Jeff Mangum's theories on
Yep.
ability to aim a putter face perpendicular line you want to start it on. Have you talked to him much about what you're doing? And I'm sure he's reached out to you. He seems to reach out to people when he's
No,
such a putting.
haven't talked to him. I'm pretty good friends with David Orr and talked to him a decent amount and a bunch of like Preston like
Uh-huh.
a bunch of people that are within David's circle have reached out and spent a decent amount of time with. And then some fitters as well, but Jeff hasn't our paths haven't crossed.
He's a very unique individual. I've gotten to know. We spent a fair amount of time together. As I mentioned, I had created a putter fitting program some years ago, and he came. I don't know if he had heard about it. We had met uh, once a couple years prior, but I don't know if he had heard about what I did, but he wanted to come down and see it because he's up in North Carolina. He's not very far. I think he was on his way to Florida. But we spent about 2 days together just discussing and my background. I understood what he was hit a lot of his theories because my background, as we talked in the pre-show, in the club fitting space, was neural path driven. How do you repeat similar motion as closely as possible without making compensation? So he and I had some similar ideas. We obviously don't grant everything, but he's a very unique person, both good and bad. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have some negative opinions, and I'm sure there's others that have some good opinions. But I was just curious because he has some interesting uh, eye brain relationships and head positioning as it relates to aim. And I know there's some other people that have different theories based off putter head style and the ability to aim based off individual. Um,
Yeah, I would say in my experience, I'd much rather find similar to what Adele tried to do, um, is that shape. I try to get someone to aim with the face and the shape of the putter is ideal. So like I try to do if I'm fitting, you're gonna see very minimal or none alignment setup. Like the ideal is to get the head shape in the face to kind of aim the putter. All you start adding that other stuff, it's biases to kind of counteract. It's like when guys get the long grips and counterbalance and they make the head heavier so they have some feel, but now we're just compensating for the added grip weight, like, and then you
Uh-huh.
end up with a sledgehammer. It's trying to solve a problem with another problem. And so to me, same thing as like, and I've seen it tried where guys try to get guys eyes tilt and all that stuff to match up to try to change how they perceive straight, and basically train someone how to aim. But in my opinion, like that's the longer, tougher road. Like you're asking someone to change uh, how their brain processes, how they look at their perspective on putter and everything else. To me, it's much easier to find someone a putter that matches kind of their perspective than it is to change all that stuff. And like my theory as an instructor is kind of the do no harm is like, and I think why I've been successful with well, all levels, but a lot with tour players is like guys get better. Like they don't have to go, oh, I'm going to get worse before I get better. It's just
Uh-huh.
kind of get better. Um, cause like they have to, they can't go like, I need
Right.
to take, I need to, I'm going to not make a check for 4 months and then get better. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like, I need to leave today better. Um, and I feel like pretty much anybody that gets a putter ends up that way. But like that's the goal is to have something that like it's obvious, can't argue it. And like that's where to me, like the way I do fittings, it's like you pretty much leave knowing that like what you got fit into, there's zero way you can say that it's not the right thing. It's like there's no say, and sometimes it's what they already have. Like I love fitting people who are good putters, and a lot of times it's not even selling them something. It's tweaking something of like, oh, like length is wrong or grip is wrong, which
Uh-huh.
then is throwing off kind of your ability to control speed. Like a lot of material. Um, like I'm very picky, and like if it's anybody I fit, nobody ends up in a super stroke um, of any kind. It's more the material than it is there's no it's like a sponge, like there's no feedback. Kind of
Yeah.
so I prefer rubber or leather's good as well.
I was the same with I used wind grips for a while, and wind not again, going back when I was playing, it was 20 years ago. So wind 20 years ago and wind of recent is not the same material, as far as putter grips.
Yeah.
It's much more cushiony now, and when I put one on, it didn't take me long to realize I've lost sense of, touch and sensitivity because, as you mentioned, you go to put any force into that, grip, and it's like a cushion or a pillow. It's absorbing it, and you're not getting the vibration, the sensory feedback that you're accustomed to, and not to knock on wind. That was just the one particular grip I used, but as you say, there are other models that don't allow for that sense of touch to be as highly fine tuned as it should.
Yeah, and I think some companies are trying to do better. Like I know the guys at Jumbo Max are doing some of that similar style grip, but they're actually doing it with leather and they're doing rubber versions. Like Garson does a rubber version of their tour, quad tour, um, that in my opinion is exponentially better than the kind of foam
I grew up with
plasticky.
yes, I grew up with leather grips. I'll be 54 this year, so imagine back in the 70s, early 80s, everything was the hand me downs, the old blades and bullseye heads or blade style putters, and everything was leather gripped. And as the weather got cooler, because I grew up in Michigan, you better get something on there. It's a little tacky because that thing gets a little dry. And there was a few times that the iron went flying out of my hands because there was no tack. But to your point, leather is great. It's hard to. I mean, it's hard enough to order a putter grip that's now $30 to $40, and when it's made out of rubber or some type of synthetic, and you look at the leather ones, and they're up there 50 plus.
Yeah.
I know it's getting up, but it's like if this is your passion or if it's your livelihood, it's $50. It's just the cost of doing business.
And, like, if you're gonna keep something, like, if you're settled on what you're gonna use, like, leather will last a decade.
Hmm.
Like, it'll like, it on full swing clubs, it'll outlast any clubs that you put them on.
Right.
So, like, to me, it's kinda like a synthetic oil change versus kinda non-synthetic. It's like, yeah, it's $100 or $150, but, like, 4 $30 oil changes end up costing just as much. Like, it's
Right.
no
Exactly.
like, it's the sticker shock of doing it all up front. Like, that's the and I try to tell people with the putter, and that's in the fitting, I try to make sure they leave going like, "This is the last putter I'll ever need." And if I choose something else, I tell people, "I want you to know the offset, the shape, everything that you need," because I think offset is massive when it comes to putting and aim, and it's a thing that's not available. Well, options aren't really available from almost anyone. Like I do a half offset plumber's neck that I don't know anybody else that makes one that so does kind of a low offset plumber's neck.
Hmm.
Actually do a lot of zero offset putters. Um, that because there's no bias. Like it's really easy to aim. Um,
And when you have the offset, is the offset from the leading edge of the face through the leading edge of the shaft, or is if you extended a line from the center of the shaft, would it align with the face?
so yeah, so with my half shaft offset is the center of the shaft will be the top line. So like I do like and when I posted photos of like you can actually see the shadow on the chrome shaft that like it literally the leading edge will reflect in the chrome and split the shaft right down the middle.
Mm.
It's a good way to illustrate that it's actually perfectly half.
Excuse me. The face balance onsets are all the craze and have been for a while. You have a opinion, positive or negative on those? Well, I should say
So
beneficial or not as beneficial as they're made out.
it depends. Like any pretty much the answer to any question I'm gonna answer is it depends. So I think the zero torque stuff is very stable. It's really easy to it does what it's intended to. So I generally see less face rotation. It consistent start line and face angle at impact. The problem is onset for almost everybody, and then when you add shaft lean, which the majority of them have lean built in,
Mhm.
um, further makes the problem worse. Is they aim left, so onset shifts is going. A lot of people are going to aim left already, and then anytime you add lean to a shaft, it makes the face look closed relative to the shaft. So I would say if you read any lab for thing on GolfWorks or any other forum in complaint, they're like, "Oh, I pull them." And
Mm.
it's like, yeah, because you can't aim it. Like it's going where you pointed it, but you pointed it way left. So the problem is like if someone can aim it and they're not highly skilled or they want something very stable, it's an option. Like I make like was it Club Junkie with GolfWorks podcast named mine, I think still in his top 5, but at one point was the best zero torque putter
Hmm. Very cool.
available. But like I would say it's 5 to 10% of what I sell. But the ones who like it love it, but it's kind of one of those things to where like I think it's if the shoe fits, go for it. But I think it's a niche kind of thing that you have to check a lot of boxes before I would go down that kind of rabbit hole.
What is your idea or theory on? Because a lot of people listening, the pros play fairly consistent speed greens week to week. At least the tour and the superintendent and staff try to set them up. I'm sure the tour gives them a range. We'd like the greens between 12 and 13 or whatever the number is. But most people that are listening and most people that play golf are playing, they might play, get invited to play a country club one week and the greens are rolling 12 or 13. And then they're playing their local golf course a few days later and it's rolling maybe 10. And then they go hang out with some friends and they're playing a course that might be a Muni that's rolling at 8. How do you, or if someone came to you and said, "Hey, I'm struggling with distance control because I'm hopping around from different speed greens and that's just my life cycle of golf and where I play." Do you advise them to get different head weighted putters, or have a couple different putters they can rotate, or do you work with them on ideas on how to control speed better from jumping to different golf courses?
So I've done it both ways. Um, so that tour player that I made that first putter for, we made him three identical ones at three different weights.
Hmm.
Um, and the funny thing is, he always migrated. Like he ended up just playing one, and that's how it's always ended up. Like I tell people, like I'm willing to do it, and it sounds good on paper, but like it's like to me there is an ideal weight. So I know personally it's relatively narrow, but it can err more on one. So like my ideal weight's 340 to 344 grams. Um, Anything heavier than that, if I get a downhill putt on a fast green, I can't not hit the smash factor's too high, and like I can't not hit it 4 feet by. And
Mm.
then the whole day you start putting defensively, and then you're not trying to make putts, you're just trying to not three putt. Um, so what I found is too heavy works great on slow greens, but it's not a Swiss Army knife. It doesn't translate at all to fast greens. And what I found personally is I like being aggressive. Like I don't like putting scared. Like I like kind of hitting things. So like I'm much more capable of hitting a light putter harder on a slow green. Like I do not mind that at all. Um, and so all my stuff is basically built for greens that are 14, and then I can adjust to slower. So like my putters, like of the putters that I get is like I also if I'm gonna air, like I have a putter that's 320 grams and I putt just fine with it. But if you were to give me like 355, standard putter by most companies, like
Hmm.
I'd want to leave the head cover on it on any fast putt.
Is there a reason you think that most companies don't create putters that have more adaptable weights that could help eliminate some of the, or help the golfer and make the adjustment easier? In other words, if they're, let's say their home course is running at 10, and they go to a member guest where the greens are going to be 12 or 13, where they can adjust out the weights for how they can keep what they feel is the same stroke, yet the putter is moving different length, different speed. What do you have an opinion on that or not?
Yeah, I don't make anything with adjustable. Well, I'll take that back. I don't make many. Like it's a very small, less than 1% that have adjustable weights, and I think a lot of it is cost of manufacturing.
Hmm.
Um, and therefore to get weights that actually swing the balance of the putter, like move it a significant enough to make a noticeable difference, especially with your average golfer who isn't going to be as acutely aware. Like you throw a super stroke on there, you get no feedback anyways. So like it doesn't really matter what the head weight like you'd have to make these massive adjustments for them to feel it. And then you start getting into multiple materials. So like for Camerons to if we want to get the weight, have the option of having both a 5 gram weight and a 40 gram weight, we have to do them out of completely different materials.
Yes.
Um, which all of that adds to the cost. Same thing as adding a so like you have to machine out the holes, thread it, and then make the weights. Like you're basically the kind of what I tell people is adding weights to a putter for and making the weights from a machinability standpoint for me essentially is like making two putters. It's like it almost doubles the cost from a time perspective.
Hmm.
Um, and so like I think a lot of don't like to do it, period. Um, and that's why they don't have the wide range of weights. Like the Mizuno putters with the weights out of them still weigh 360 grams.
Jesus.
And so like you can't get that like if you just leave them empty, they're still heavy. And then also when you leave them empty, the other part you're going to see is the MOI is going to go down massively because generally the weights are in the heel and the toe. So like you're literally removing all of the weight from the heel and the toe, and the MOI has gone down drastically to get a putter that's light enough.
Do you remember Zivit putters? Uh, they were out of Asheville, North Carolina.
No.
The guy that That was an engineering, that was a steel fabrication company, and one of their engineers was a golf fanatic, and he was actually, we became very good friends, and I knew him because the guy that used to do my club work was based out of Greenville, and John Thomas was his name. He would come down from Asheville because he had heard about this guy, and they became friends. But uh, they had Zivot putters had adjustable weights. Now they had a big manufacturing facility that he could go in there and use their machining equipment and pump these things out. But they would mill a lot of them out of single block of steel or single block of aluminum, and with the threads and everything. But to your point of the variability on the weights, there was a tungsten weight that was 22 grams each. There was brass weights that ran 12, I think they were 10, 12,
17.
and 10,
Yeah.
12, and 15 each.
Yeah.
And then they had a really light one that was like, I almost want to say it was like an aluminum weight. It was the lightest one. I just remember because it was a red one. Um, and I think those were 5 grams each. But that I had not seen them. There's a couple Titleist, or Cameron for a while was doing some weighting in the sole.
Yeah, so a
Uh,
lot of them I cheat, like, if someone asks for it. Like, I've done a couple,
uh,
for most of the ones I've done are people that, like, wanna experiment with, say, a counterbalance build. So one of the and so they, like, order the putter at 370, but they wanna be able to backtrack. So they wanna be able to make it 340 and play it at normal length with a normal grip if they don't like it. So I've done a couple of those, and, like, I cheat and just use Cameron weights.
mm,
'Cause it saves me time. Like, I know what the thread pitch is, and so I just thread them for Cameron weights and let them buy, and then I go there. You can buy the replica ones on Amazon for like $10. Like, they're commercially available and cheap rather than, like, it costs me way more to take round bar and machine, like, I mean, $10 is like 90 seconds machine time. So, like, and they take a lot longer than 90 seconds to make. So I tell people, like, I can't compete with cheap Chinese things. So, like, if I can make it readily available, use stuff that's off the shelf, readily available, and adapt
yes.
it, I kind of do that when possible.
Well, John ended up, he passed away a number of years ago, but I have I bet I have 8 to 10 of his putters that he had made, and it's great to have those, is to use them and play with them. And again, he was a friend, a dear friend. But the issue I have is I only have so many weights, and if by chance I lose them or they get stolen out of the car, whatever, um, they're gone. And I do know machinists. He's in a few towns over. I played in a program with him a couple years back. We become friends, but I called him up. I said, Brian, I need like some insurance. Can you make? I know you can make these, but can you take a look? And he said, yeah, let me check the thread and the size and blah blah blah. So I met with him, and he says, I can do this, but it's going to be 125 an hour. I was like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
not that important.
And that would be cheap. Yeah.
Yes.
And like that, in the machining world, like, that's friends and family discount. Like,
Yeah, he said that's the buddy discount. I said,
yeah.
and I was going to need, let's say, 10 of them. I said, yeah, I don't need them that bad. I'll just pay more attention to where I keep the spare ones.
And what a lot of people that, like, don't know machining work is, like, that hourly rate includes, like, setup time, programming time. So, like, sometimes people will email me and be like, "Oh, can you just copy this head?" Or, like, whatever, and it's like, so I have to do the CAD, I have to do the programming of for the machining, I have to build custom fixtures to hold it in the various positions you want it. I was like, "Yeah, we can do that, but it's gonna be well into 4 figures."
Hmm.
And then they balk at the thing and they think, like, well, why can't it be the same as this? And it's like, well, I know I'm going to sell a bunch of, like, an answer shape. Like, I'm not worried about recouping my time and expenses by designing one of those. So, like, I can do that. Or, like, for instance, like, I don't know if you said, we'll call it an arachnid inspired uh, putter that somebody requested, like, but one piece milled out of a solid block of steel,
Wow.
unlike all the available ones. But I charged them my normal mallet rate because knew the moment I posted it, it would be popular. Like, I knew that was, um, and I was correct. There was like 7 orders of it within 24 hours. So,
That's
um,
great.
like, some stuff, if I know it's going to be work, like, it's fine. But people who want out there stuff, or like, especially the people that I've done some stuff for people that like send me a CAD file. So like they've done a lot of the work for me to where then it's just me machining it. That's a completely different idea. People don't realize how long it takes to design something from like sketch and get it to be a weight and be functional and like nail parameters, like how many hours go into that.
Mm,
And like, that's why I don't do a lot. It's like you'll have someone do that and then they'll tire kick it and be like, yeah, I'm not interested. And you're like, cool, I just wasted 5 hours to and got zero compensation. Like it just doesn't make sense. So like I do a lot of like probably have in my CAD program like 40 different head shapes that I can readily do. So I think I probably make more than almost anyone.
mhm.
But I also try to not do anything way out there towards like totally random unless if someone's willing to spend four figures, like I can
You ought
make
to do
anything.
that. I can't believe that there are some very well-known designers/companies that charge 12 to $15,000 experience to come in and get custom fit for a putter. And in my opinion, and knowing putters and functionality, and as we were discussing, sometimes you just get the right putter style to something, they're going to putt better. I don't care if it's $100 putter they found at a garage sale for 10. If it's right, it's going to work. And I'm like, well, some of these people have mastered I call it the Starbucks effect, where you can make your own cup of coffee at home for what's the equivalent of 50 cents, or you can go to Starbucks and pay $7.80 for one that's half the size. And I said, so that they have mastered the Starbucks effect, where they're charging $15,000 for you to come in and get a putter. And they make it fancy and all these other things. But for you to say, here's 4,000 for a machine putter exactly to where you want it, that's a bargain compared to what these things are doing. So
Well,
maybe you're not, maybe you're not charging enough.
well, most of my stuff, like if it's a head I already have, like I charge 600 to 700 for, and that includes fitting and the putter itself. So like people come in, get fitted, and leave with a putter exactly how it weight, alignment, whatever, neck, offset,
Hmm.
everything for basically what a retail Cameron would cost. Like you couldn't do the fitting and buy a retail Cameron for what they could buy one of my putters. That's why I tell people is like, I'm not here to sell you one of mine. If you want one, great, but like it'll be the cheapest option and it'll be the only way you can get exactly what you want. So like I was like, like I think Ping charges like 2,000 to go
Mm,
through their works fitting with with the cost of the putter. Um and like those guys are good, but like that's a lot of money. And
yeah,
like
quite a bit of money.
I've treated like I probably work too much, but like from my golf instruction side, like I used to teach. Uh, at one point, it was probably 100 hours of lessons a week
Mm,
um, for a decade, and like my attitude's always like I like to be busy. Like it's kind of then recession proof. It's kind of like all the most successful businesses in the history of business have been high volume. Like that's how it works. Like none of the exotic car companies make money. They're all struggling. Like they're all about to go bankrupt and need kind of money to, and that's why they're all owned by major OEMs. Like Volkswagen owns
Fiat. Yep.
Bugatti,
Yep.
Lamborghini. Like like most of them are all owned not by the original owners because they couldn't make it like low volume, high price seems smart and great. But the problem is like if you have a really small customer base and you lose a couple customers, like
Yeah,
you're
that's a
done.
big percentage.
Yeah. And so to me, like and I grew up without a lot of money, kind of pretty humbly. Um, so like I like to make things affordable. Like I don't think I have any competition in the space that I'm in because I basically sell putters for the same price Cameron charges, yet offer a service that they don't provide. So
Mhm.
like it's kind of like at the price point of a better off the rack putter, but not an off the rack experience.
There's been a lot of discussion lately on tour, and I would have to agree that whatever the tour players play, it seems to filter down into the general population. But a lot of discussion recently more so in the telecast. I've noticed that players are changing from blade style putters to mallet style putters. Do you see uh, one? Obviously, there's differences, but do you see benefits to that over one over the other, or do you just think it's a trend or fad that is caught on and even at that level, that they're doing what they see some of their contemporaries do and doing well, so they think that the putter mallet is going to make that much of a difference in their game.
It's monkey see, monkey do. Um, like Padre Harrington did the Faraday podcast a long time ago and
Hmm.
talked about how like if he jumped off every tee box and clicked his heels, people would think he's nuts. But if he won, there'd be 10 guys doing it the next week. And if he won 2 weeks in a row, the whole tour would be doing it. Um, is like pretty much any mallet putter, unless you start getting into exotic materials and multi-material construction, which doesn't make a retail sense. Um, and like, for instance, like you can make a big aluminum putter. Nobody likes how aluminum putters feel. Um, so if you're actually using steel, there are some design limitations within what certain weights of kind of what you can do. Um, and without getting, because the easiest way to trick MOI is make it really heavy.
Hmm.
Um, but like you're somewhat limited. So like any blade putter, and you can go to any golf store and look at it, is like if you put a Newport 2 next to a Spider, the Newport 2 is actually bigger heel to toe. You have more surface area in the heel to toe. And like, for instance, my blade putters have a MOI just under 5,000 at 350 grams. If you're willing to go 370, which I think is a little heavy, but then we get the MOI to,
Yes, it's very heavy.
but like it's apples to apples. So the biggest thing is like most manufacturers are comparing MOI. They're comparing like a 380 gram mallet to a 340 gram blade, which is Russian and Chinese. Like
Yes,
it's
and it's night and
not
day.
a comparable thing. So like if you like average Spider, I think is probably like most are probably in that 365, 370 gram range. Well,
Hmm.
if I make a blade putter that is that weight, it is also 5,000 MOI, exactly the same as the Spider. It's like it is just as forgiving, and you actually have more surface area in the face, and the face is actually taller. So you have more surface area in every direction. And like I would argue, at worst they're the same, but because of the difference in the size of head, I would actually argue in many ways the blade would be more forgiving. And it's also less visually distracting. For most people, aim blades better. Like I've done at this point thousands and thousands of fittings, and if we're just basing it on aim, low to no offset blades is probably like the easiest thing for people to aim.
Yeah, the blades are what, usually almost 4 3/4 up to 4 3/4 from heel to toe. Spiders
So
are not
mine
even
are
what, four and
yeah
a quarter, 4 3/8.
no Spider, like the Tour
The
X is going to
tour,
be well under 4. Like
huh?
the actual like the Ping Oslo's like 3.7 inches heel to toe.
Wow.
Um, and that's pretty standard. Like Golos say most mallets are going to be under 4. Um, and my blade profiles, because I think aesthetically they look better, are a little shorter heel to toe, a little wider front to back than standard. And there's some tricks with the weight, which is why I think MOI is higher on my blade than most, but it's percentage points. Like it's still, you're limited to how much you can do. So you can't go too crazy. Um, but yeah, like most of my blades are in that like 4.375. So they're a little under 4.5 inches. Cause
Uh-huh.
I think when I look at a like Newport 2, for example, or even a regular like Newport or anybody's, to me, they look like the Jack Nicklaus, like response putter. Like they look huge. They look really skinny and really long heel to toe. And I think if you go too much that way, it looks goofy. Um, so like I prefer something that's a little
And
more balanced.
on yours, how high do you keep the face? What's
Uh,
the range in your face height?
they're almost all my putters are around an inch tall.
And for
With
context for
the
somebody listening, what would a spider, which is Probably one of the more
My and
common ones out there today.
my mallets are shorter than that. The mallets, because weight has to go somewhere, so when you start
Hmm.
spreading it out kind of further back, um, is most of my mallets are like 0.83, 0.85. So like it's they're 15 to 20% shorter height wise.
Hmm. And for the person listening that doesn't understand the importance of a higher face versus a more shallower face, can you uh, touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so most people can look up the size of a golf ball. So if you're getting most of my mallets are in that like 0.83, I would say is pretty, most of them are around that number. That's right around the equator of a golf ball.
Yes.
And so now should be hitting slightly up on the putter and the putter shouldn't be on the
Point.
ground.
I think not to interrupt, but 0.86. I want 1.68 is the diameter. So 0.86 would be the radius to
Yeah.
give people. So yeah, very very close uh,
Yeah.
to the
So,
equator.
so like you can hit, and the equator is the only part of the golf ball you're hitting. So like the it's why if you look at even Tiger, like a lot of blade putters are hit very high on the face.
Hmm.
Um, Guys that have good low point control can get close to the ground without worrying about drop kicking it, which is a factor. Um,
Chunking, they
yeah,
chunk their putts.
which is, and I also think that's why mallets are slightly less forgiving. Is wider soles more likely to, if you start trying to hit up on it, like, you're giving more surface area to hit the ground before you get to the ball.
Hmm.
It is why my mallets have actually more sole draft in them than my blades. They try to get the back of the putter more off the ground, so that they don't do that. So I think I've made some design things to make them as good or better than they can be. But like the, I think there's a good chance with a lot of mallets to hit the ball kind of very high on the face. Like I said, unless you're going aluminum, but then nobody likes how those feel.
Yeah, I would agree. Um, I want to divert a little bit from putting because you're very good and very knowledgeable about grips, and that was one of the key things that the mutual friends we had were discussing with me, and I was always curious. That's one area of the game that I touched on but never really dug into, and would like to just discuss a little bit about grips and how you got into it, what you think might be missing in the general discussion today, and just talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I think for anyone building any of those counterbalance or long putter grips that are 15, 17, or I just put a 21-inch one on a putter build the other day. Like I use mostly KBS shafts,
Uh-huh.
um, because they're readily available and I like how I can get things in every flex that I would kind of want. So there's some variation across the board. Um, but like the butt diameter on KBS's is 0.62. And when you trim it, it gets a little bit, but like if you start getting something that has a long pipe neck on it, cool, you're trimming a lot. But if I'm doing a putter that's like into the head, like a center shafted that's bore, like I'm cutting an inch off the butt. So the butt is really thick, and every single grip that like Super Stroke sells is 0.58. Golf Pride the same. So anybody who's tried to get a 17-inch 0.58 grip over a 0.62 butt shaft, uh, not to mention the problems with that is that there's basically no, because golf True Temper stopped making the YSC. There's basically no 580 butt putter shafts, limited number. What most people, I think most companies use the KBS shaft or some imported version that's 6.0 or 620 in the butt, is when you put a 580 grip on a 620 butt, it actually plays oversized. Like it actually makes the grip bigger.
Uh-huh.
Um, so then they're not intended to play that. So not only is it a pain in the ass to put on, especially when they're 17 inches long, um,
Yes,
but they don't
it's a
play.
full-time job.
Oh, I use I use 90 psi of compressed air and a vice bolted to the concrete to get them on because I'm not going to sweat for 30 minutes trying to twist a grip on. But like so I asked Golf Pride when I was there, um, especially with those style grips, because again, most of those grips are going on putters that are 37 or 38 inches. And when you do that, you're not butt trimming. So the grip is, so you're putting the smallest inner diameter grip on the biggest possible shaft.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it makes zero sense. And I asked them why, and they didn't have an answer. They basically just said like, that's how we've done it, and there's no plans to change. But and I think like they'd have to change their tooling and do whatever it costs. But like the market has kind of shifted to where and actually think it's the same thing on full swing grips. Every driver grip is a 620 or 610. I think some driver grips are like 640. And same thing is like almost every full swing grip you get on the market is 580. And so like when you put a 580 grip on most modern driver shafts, it's borderline mid-sized. Like
Yes.
go pick up a persimmon driver at a thrift store and feel how much thinner the grip is than most modern clubs. And it's because the grip itself is the same, but because shafts have changed, they haven't changed how grips are made. They just do things the way they've been done for 50 years. And like they're innovating with material, but they're not adapting to like basic size differences.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, not accommodating for the changes in other parts of the products that go into the club that would affect their product or their portion or percentage of the build out. It's like one hand's not talking to the other
Exactly. And
through the
like I
process.
fit a lot of grips, like I'm particular, is I fit more min into undersized grips than anything else. Um, is because a lot of men have very strong, thick hands, but actually short fingers. So they have like these, like, especially like bigger guys, they tend to think they're strong and they need these big grips. And they actually have like short, chubby fingers and they can't wrap their hand around a normal grip. So they all have really weak grips because if they rotate their hand to be a little bit stronger, they feel like their fingers don't actually reach around. They can't get it in their fingers because they can't wrap it around. So
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of guys with thick hands need undersized grips. The problem is if you put an undersized grip that's 580 on a 620 butt, it's actually just a normal grip. Like it's not undersized. And a lot of people even screw up and go, well, I'm gonna put a women's claw grip on it to get undersized. Women's grips are 560. So it's actually even bigger.
There seems to be a little bit of a, well, it's not even a craze really anymore, but Bryson kind of started the jumbo and jumbo max and all these other really large grips. What do you, what would you tell people out there listening that are considering those or have put those on?
I think so. What happens is if the grip's too much in the palm of your hand, so have a putter here, but it'll be the same. So if the grip's too much in the palm of your hand, the heel pad can't get on top.
Mm-hmm.
So you have no leverage. So like with these clubs off, like it wants to just fall out of my hand. That's why every amateur golfer, if you look, they rip all their gloves up in the heel, is because club's actually moving in their hand. Um, so what I think Jungle Max did and Bryson has a very weak grip is they just go, well, if we make the grip bigger to fill that thing, it won't move around. The problem is you didn't solve the problem. Like the problem is you have a weak grip. If you get it in your fingers, like into the heel pads on top, I can hold this club with one finger. Like, and you could try your darndest to rip this out of my hand. It's not going to like I can
Mm-hmm.
set my wrist. I can move the club. I can articulate the club fully with one finger. And so like they're trying to solve a problem rather than actually fixing the problem. Kind of like it just gives someone a grip that won't move around in their hand as much but allow them to have a really weak grip. But that introduces like, cool, you can't set the club. You're gonna have club face issues. And if you look at Bryson doesn't set the club. So
Mm-mm.
like is it matches what Bryson does. I just don't think that's what the average golf like you're taking a good leverage point and like Bryson isn't hurting for speed, but your average golfer is. So adding something that's going to potentially rob them of speed, make the club face more open relative to their lead arm and add dynamic loft just seems like the worst case scenario.
What would be the process without giving away your secret sauce? Someone comes in and says, uh, Dan, I want you to fit me one for a putter grip, and I want you to fit me two for a grip for my clubs. Go through that, how you're going to kind of, you don't have to go through the whole thing, but just kind of for the listener out there that might not have heard of you and
Yeah,
looking for some help.
I'd usually do some very quick, and at this point I can do it visually, but essentially measure their hand and kind of look at, a lot of it is the ratio of finger length versus palm length.
Mhm.
So like I prefer relatively small grips, but like I wear a men's XL cadet glove. Like I have massive palms, kind of normal fingers, but I've been able to palm a basketball since I was like 9. Um, like catch like big hands, and
Played Little League and didn't need a mitt.
yeah. So like to me, you can give me a jumbo grip. Like I could take Bryson's grip and probably get to where like my fingertips touch my palm. Like it's not an issue at all. Most people with a standard grip can't wrap their hand around the club. So to me, like that's the bare minimum is like they physically have a weak grip because they aren't like if they got their hands rotated, now their fingers are on the side of the grip. They're not
Mhm.
under it. So they feel like it's just gonna fall out of the like they have no support on the bottom of the club. And so like it's not every, but I would say that of people that I see that have the wrong grips, most are too big. Um, and what I always tell people to prove it is I go like, hey man, like you don't have to listen to me. Like I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. Like I think my role as a teacher and do everything else is I'm gonna give you advice and it's up to you to follow it. Like you're paying for my opinion. You don't if you choose to pay for it and not listen to it, like it seems like a weird thing to do, but that's up to you. But what I usually tell people is go get an undersized grip. Golf Pride, and I've talked to them, they make some. And I think the easiest transition is the undersized +4. So the left hand is smaller than standard, but the bottom hand is basically standard grip size. So it's the easy transition to where the left hand is more in the fingers and gets it heel pad on top. And then if they like it, they can try a fully undersized grip and whatever. But I just tell people put it on a 7-iron and a driver. Put on 2 clubs and just see if you like it. And pretty much everybody switches out all their clubs. Um, and then Ping makes the Aqua grip is 1/32 undersized.
Hmm.
I think they make the Aqua in a red. They make a 1/64th, which isn't worth the difference, and 1/32 undersized, which is the equivalent of 2 wraps undersized.
What was the one from Japan? Was it that they were really doing putter grips quite a bit, but they had a whole series of
Ionic.
Onic, yes.
And
And
that's what I use on all the putters. So like I like them because they're the only one that has, so like they have a 55, which is the classic, which is very similar to like the Studio Designer Pingman grip in size. Like it's very small. Like it's that very tiny old school putter grip.
mhm.
And then the 75 they have is similar to almost everybody else's midsize. So it's kind of the Lambkin Deep Etch, kind of all of the Golf Pride, whatever tour tradition. Like it's very similar size to all of those. And what I like is they have a 65 in between those two. So they have one that's not the tiny Pingman studio design, but it's not quite a mid-size. And then I also have, you know, and, and I also have 85. So I have 4 different weights to kind of choose from and sizes to where like I let people kind of experiment and almost everybody ends up with a grip that's probably smaller than the one they came in with.
That's interesting. Very interesting how that happens, and that they just gravitate towards.
Like when you start to explain, so like the bigger the grip, the less feedback. And like we talked about mallets versus blades. Like the same guys as Scotty Scheffler, Rory, these guys like, oh, you have to play a mallet putter. They're hitting blade 3-irons. So you're telling me if I can hit a 3-iron 260 yards out of the middle, but he can't hit a putt 4 feet out of the middle of the face. Like, it makes zero. It's the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my entire life. Is putter head's way bigger than a 3-iron, and it's moving way slower. Like, if you can't, and oh, by the way, we can go deep dive, but like you have to miss the center of the face by 18 millimeters, so well over half an inch, um, on a 10-foot putt to have it not go in the hole because of contact with a blade putter. It's like and that's like, go measure 1.8 centimeters on a putter face and see how bad you'd have to miss hit it for it to actually affect anything. And that's why, like, I made a blade putter that had an MOI of nearly 6,000. I stopped making it because it doesn't. When it comes to action, it's marketing, and it was cool. It was well engineered, cost a shit ton to make, and like it just didn't make sense because it didn't have that. At the end of the day, it didn't have a huge impact on did people make more putts, and so like it was too much work to make, too expensive, and other than and they sold, but like other than marketing purposes, like it didn't matter.
Uh-huh.
And so, like, my big thing with same thing what I actually have is I actually still play some persimmon, but I have a bunch of older clubs that have the older shafts that have smaller butt sections. And then I just go like, here's a Z chord on an older club, and here's one on a modern club. It's the same grip, but feel how much thinner it was. And that's because that grip is on the size shaft that it's supposed to be on. And then you just go, okay, like and like dynamic golds, modern grips can fit okay because they haven't really changed anything in 80 years. But a lot of the more modern shafts have gone bigger butt section to kind of stabilize that area of and stiffen up that area of the club. And modern grips have not moved to kind of accommodate
Yeah,
that
the
change.
biggest, Lambkin, I would say, as I was thumbing through the catalog, I think it was yesterday, just looking at grips that I knew we were going to discuss a little bit. They seem to have more uh, 58 butt diameter grips, and Golf Pride seems to have more 60.60.
Yeah, which is a good change. Like golf prides moved more into the modern. Like
Mm-hmm.
they used to be, but like when I was a kid, everything was 580. Getting a
Yes.
600 was hard. And that was my question with golf pride when I was there, like at headquarters. I was like, you guys made somewhat of the move in the right direction on the full swing grips. Like, is there any thoughts of changing the putter grip since like almost nobody's using a 580 butt club? And so, like, you're making a putter grip for a shaft that basically no longer exists.
Yeah, it's no longer around.
Um, and like, there was like, no, like, they're just like, I don't think they had thought about it. Like, I don't think it was a question that I don't think anybody had ever asked them. So, like, I think they were completely taken off guard and were kind of like, well, we have no plans. And I don't think it's because they're like not trying to do things correctly or not trying to do, like, I think it's literally was a blind spot that they had never thought of. Like, they'd never even considered like shaft manufacturers making, and that's what I think is like can be difficult in the golf industry is like we're taking components from a bunch of different places. It's kind of like a computer, and why some of them don't work and why Apple was successful is because like they made everything and made sure they
Mhm.
controlled everything so that like everything talked to each other and everything worked. Whereas like you're like, oh, I bought this computer with this graphics card and this processor with this software and just hope they all talk to each other and kind of
Yeah,
work. And
that
that
makes total sense. Have you talked to any other companies? Not that they're, you know, equipment companies that have their engineering departments, but have you just in casual conversation or reached out to anyone and said that, hey, here's something I found. You guys, the shafts, just with how they're changing and they're made, et cetera, that they're bigger diameter. And have you given any consideration or in your discussions with the grip companies to say, hey, have you guys considered this? In other words, have you had other conversations with other, engineers out there that might be working for some of the bigger companies about this?
no, I mean, I have talked to shaft manufacturers and like I wouldn't say I'm friends with Paul Wood, but talked to Paul Wood
Hmm. Oh
semi
yeah,
regular.
Paul would be one I would have in mind that would be
Yeah.
at least open to listen. He's
And
very
Eric,
much
like
like
all
that.
the guys at Ping. Like
Yes.
I discuss things and the I think when it comes to putter stuff, I think most people just think like it's not a big enough slice of the pie to matter. Um, I've talked to him about how, like, I think the modern answer that Ping sells doesn't look anything like the original answer. Like, it's the modern answer that they sell looks like the PLD one looks closer to a Newport 2 or an Answer 2 than it does like, it's lost all of the roundness and the features. The bumpers are flat. Um, Whereas, like, a 009 actually looks closer to an original answer than the copy looks closer to the answer than the answer
Uh-huh.
does at this point. And I was like, and if you put them next to each other in a golf store, everybody would pick the softer, like they would, and but like if they don't have them side by side, they're just, and that's what he kind of said, like basically, like it doesn't matter. Like they're just going to buy what they're going to buy. Like it's not enough to, it's small potatoes. And I think Ping's probably the best at, like, from the engineering department, they have the most PhDs of like making things very functionally good, like high performance,
Uh-huh.
extremely good. Um, I think there's work to be done on the aesthetics, um, at least as far as like the value. And I think like a company like Titleist is really good at the aesthetics.
Yeah,
And
everyone seems to have their niche or
it's
their
obvious that
expertise.
they value that, like that they want it to look good. Um, and I think, I mean, it's their tagline: "Better equipment for better players." Like they're kind of telling people, like, if you're an 18 handicap, don't look at us. Even though they sell clubs for 18 handicaps, but like their own slogan kind of says like we're targeting the better player. Um, And like I think that's the problem is like there's so many companies going so many different directions and using components from different companies that have different ethos. Like I think it's just difficult to get people on the same page and on board. And like I don't think it'll ever happen because they all have their opinions with what they think is best. And like I just think it's funny to me is that like I approached Ping about a potential for putter fitting system, and it's just like doesn't move the needle enough. But like the company that was founded on custom fitting and founded on a putter doesn't think custom fitting putters is that big of a priority, which is like, but like I get it. Like at the end of the day, they have to make, they're trying to make big money.
Uh-huh.
And like I have the luxury of one, I've been fairly successful at almost anything I've done, but the I care more about, like, I think money comes from success. So like I care more about doing things, I think, the right way and getting people into the right stuff and seeing good results. And then I think the money kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah, everybody knows the best advertising is word of mouth, and if you're helping people solve a problem, in golf, it's obviously to get better, or and then break that down. Are they able to make more putts? Are they able to control distance better? If you get into this full swing, are they able to get rid of a slice or hit it straight or whatever it is? And their handicap starts dropping. And even if they don't want to tell their friends because they don't want their friends to come to you because they're winning their money on their weekend Nassau, that word's going to spread pretty quickly. And success will breed the success. It seems like it's such a simple formula, but I don't understand why so many people or companies uh, choose to go different directions when they know what they need to do.
Well, the funny thing is that's how all the big companies got big. Like Ping were sold like word of mouth by writing a letter to Karsten. Like it's like sold in golf shops and 100% like you mail him the money, send him a check and he'd send you a putter. Like that was it's why he had a PO box on the back of the putter so you knew where to send the check to. Like they were founded on those ideals. And I think he was just a guy who loved it and wanted to make the best product. And I think that's performance wise, I think that guides what they do still to this day. And I do think like they're not publicly traded in the same way that must see. So like they have a little bit more autonomy to kind of do things the way it's not all about money.
Uh-huh.
Um, but there are shareholders, and I think it's still about money.
Yeah, Wall Street starts calling, and like I said, and nothing against accountants. I have a lot of good friends who are accountants, but when accountants have get a seat at the table, the decision making table, and they're looking at bottom line more so than uh, product development and coming up with some great ideas. I mean, Apple, for anybody who has studied the Apple story and the job story, will understand that. Now, if you could look back in 2020 and say, look, what Jobs accomplished, taking Apple from nothing to what they were doing, 10 million in their third year. They were with, no, 100 million, I think, their third year, 10 million their second, or something crazy like that. And then, he kept wanting to be innovative. I mean, you could drive a company off a cliff if you go too overboard, because you obviously have to have something coming in. So I consider there has to be somewhat of a balance, but to the point that a company has to understand what it is and stay as true to that mantra as it can. You obviously have a very good understanding of what your business is and what you do, and you remain true to that. But I think companies can get diverted from that as they grow. What they started out and then what they becomes harder, I would have to imagine. I don't have that problem, but maybe one day if the podcast got big enough, someone would come to me and say, "Hey, you're not as grassroots as you used to be. Get back to doing this." Yeah, okay, I'll do that. But
Yeah, and like
so it's just an opinion for now.
yeah, I've had some discussions with multiple OEMs, some about some potential opportunities. And like I think it ends up not going anywhere because like what I think is ideal is probably to them out there. And I think a little bit there's a little risk, but you're talking about companies that spend hundreds of millions of dollars, and the risk
Mhm.
I'm talking is like under the seven-figure number. Like I actually think like it's pennies. Like it's not even like it's a line item on a budget sheet. But the problem is like it's double-edged sword. Like it wouldn't take much to do something really cool and implement something that is awesome. But at the same time, because it doesn't cost a lot in the grand scheme of things, because machines are expensive, like infrastructure, it does cost some money. Um, but that it also doesn't move the needle enough to make it a priority. Like it's this double-edged sort of like, okay, we don't want to basically spend any time on this because it's just not important enough. Like it's not a big enough deal.
Well, I think that goes back to, as we were discussing in the pre-show, it, the use of the word science is overused, and usually by people who might understand one, two, or even three sciences, but they're definitely not understanding to a very high degree all the sciences involved. There'd just be so much time in a day that somebody has to learn those things. So I'm not faulting anybody. But when you get the egos, in particular in the golfing industry and coaching industry in particular, that say, "Well, this is physics or this is biomechanics," it's like, yeah, but that's not the only thing involved. I mean, you have uh, applied physics, the physics design of the club head versus the way that a club functions as it moves through space. You have all these things involved: neuroscience, biology, physiology, etc. That it's like,
Psychology.
yes, psychology, maybe one of the bigger than the neurological fact. All these things play a role, and it's like even some of the best. And this is not a knock on them. They become very good because they're exceptional in their field at what they do. But when you are spending so much time on a particular field and fill in the blank on whatever it is, you don't have time to look at the new things and be creative at the same time because you're so focused on what's on inside the circle as opposed to what's outside. And the outside, some of the best ideas usually come from the periphery. So let's use, I'll paint the picture of the example of you. You have an OEM who is so focused on what's going on in their company and what they've been working on, et cetera. And then you got someone like you that's on the periphery that has the freedom as I'll just say independent in relationship to a big OEM. You have the freedom to test and try, and what'll happen if I do this, and experiment and develop and so on. And you come up with a great idea. And I think the challenge for you is getting them to see it in a different perspective than they're used to on their daily routine, even if they are a company that gets outside of routine and does expand into creative. It's just not part of their normal thought process. And it's not even selling them on, it's getting them to understand, hey, this is something that has a potential to be groundbreaking, and your investment to get that return is is minimal compared to what you're spending on other things. Where is the risk?
Yeah, and I think like the hard part is getting companies to see things how like smart country clubs do. That like not everything has to make money directly. So like getting somebody, if you can pull somebody into your brand with something that doesn't even make money, but it offers like money on the back end, like it's hard to quantify. And accountants love statistics and being able to
Mhm.
track things. But at the end of the day, like it's still making money. Like a perfect example is Nike. Nike made clubs to sell shoes and clothes. And they would not have been able to enter the golf space with the shoes and the clothes if they did not sell clubs. And then once they got big enough to where they could stop selling clubs and still sell the shoes and clothes, they did. But what drove all those clothes sales, where Nike's still probably one of the top shoe and clothing soft goods markets where the margins are really good, is they were willing to lose money on the clubs, but to make someone a Nike athlete, to like get
Mhm.
someone in brand loyalty and create a thing. And like to me is something like doing something really cool with putters to get somebody like, oh, that's interesting. Like this is getting eyeballs and it's functional and it will work, even if it doesn't make a ton of money, but it also doesn't cost you. It's pretty safe that it's going to be around a zero, but it gets people super interested, especially for a company like Srixon and Mizuno, these companies that like are known for one thing and are kind of good at what they do, but no one cares. Like no one cares about Mizuno putters. Sorry. Just they don't move the like Srixon, no one like they have the Cleveland budget line that
Mhm.
actually is really good at what they do. And but like they're not the most aesthetically pleasing and they actually can make some very minor changes to actually make them really good that wouldn't cost much more that I think would appeal to a much larger audience. Um, and Wilson is actually kind of doing a pretty good job at it quietly. That like some of their re-releases of the 8802 and some of their mill putters actually look pretty darn good. Um, but like I think there's a massive market for a putter that has minimal like not logos everywhere, like very minimalist, kind of very simple, subtle. Like I always use the like Levi's tag. Like you see a pair of jeans, you know they're Levi's,
Mhm.
and they don't have to say Levi's down the leg, and they don't have to be all over. You know what they are. Same thing as like when you see an Aston Martin's grill, you know it's an Aston Martin. Like it doesn't have to scream it everywhere. Like you know what that is. And I think being something that's really classy and subtle and like doesn't have logos all over the sole, all over the face, on the back, that looks like a giant billboard, I think that would actually attract a ton of people. It definitely would attract the better player, but I think just functionally it's more aesthetically pleasing. But convincing the marketing department to not slap logos on everything is
Well,
a whole nother
I
story.
related to Brando Chambly was talking here. He talks or has talked a number of times about when you have uh, players on tour. You know, there's so many. There's the swing coach, there's the psych coach, there's the trainer, there's the nutritionist, there's uh, everybody's pulling them in their direction because they want them to. We got to get you in the gym and stretch you out, or we got to get you back on the putting green or on the driving range to fine tune where you're off today, or we've got to get you to eat by 3 hours before you go to bed. I mean, they're being pulled in so many directions because all the and it's I don't think he was saying that there's no bad intentions because they're all on the same team and they all have the same goal, but it becomes like the need to contribute in your space sometimes without you knowing will override the growth or the development of the person that you're trying to help. Um, and maybe that's what's happening in these clubs where, I mean, these companies where you have each of these divisions. You have marketing, you have design,
Yeah, it's
accounting, and everybody's trying to contribute. I'm not saying that accountants are the ones pulling these companies down by any means. It's just that their responsibility within the entity is, hey, we need to watch our costs. The marketing team saying we need to make sure everybody sees this, and the design team saying this is the functionality of it. It's like, you have to learn how to play nice in the sandbox, or else the whole thing's going to blow up.
yeah, and I think the levels, like to me, that when I've been talking to OEMs, that's the biggest thing of like to get to the people who actually make the decisions, which most of the time I can eventually get to, but like there's so many layers of people that
Hmm.
have to not only think it's viable, but like care. Like it has to be like they're being pulled so many different directions and everybody wants a piece of their time that like I get it. Like it it's hard, but I also think like for instance, like I think it's like I've wanted to open a like and I would love like I think an OEM partner would make it easier, but kind of basically scale up what I do and have an awesome kind of fitting location, but then almost similar to what the Kingdom has, Full Swing. Um, but to where like you're like, okay, someone can have that experience. Like, come get a putter and actually get made and like leave with something or whatever, not instant. So have it kind of shipped to them relatively quickly, but have a awesome overall, almost like what BMW does with their like you can go pick up your car in South Carolina, or you could do Euro delivery where you fly to Germany and get to watch it coming off the assembly line, but do
Uh-huh.
something really cool and service tour players. And like I happen to be based in like the Jacksonville area where like 40% of the tour lives and where the tour headquarters is. And you, like getting something here is you a lot of times a sticking point. Like they want it in California or they want it and it's like, why wouldn't you want to go where the players are? Like where the people like it just doesn't make sense. But it's
No,
because they want they want oversight. Like they want to be able to like walk in every day and see it instead of trust somebody to be like, you're going to meet the goals and like it's the same thing of like they wouldn't be like the beauty of what I do is like if I wanted to come in and machine putters at midnight I could, as long as
uh-huh.
the thing gets done, it gets done. Like it doesn't, if I wanted to work 3 16-hour days instead of a normal work week I could. Like it's as long as things get done they get done. I get that why a company wouldn't love that. Like
Yes.
they want things to be the way they want them to be, but like I also think like having something like the Kingdom where guys love same thing as Ping headquarters and like those companies, it doesn't make sense to move it because they're already, but like plenty of companies don't have a facility. And it's like, one, why don't you? And two, why wouldn't you put it in like Florida's exponentially cheaper than California from both a land cost, living cost, and tax cost. Like, why would you? Wouldn't you? And like, I know they're going to cite that a lot of their manufacturing is in China, but like, cool shipping. As somebody ships stuff all over the world, like I guarantee you, the slightly more expensive shipping cost is outweighed by the tax burden and everything, and the
Yes. And
land costs
well,
and everything
yeah,
else
the
that
tariffs
comes
and everything
from
now.
yeah being in a place that has no state income tax and extremely low. Like it's getting more, but like everybody vacations to Florida because it's cheaper than going to LA or San Diego.
Mhm.
Like,
I would think that that using the Kingdom as the example is, I mean, here you are at a course up in North Georgia that's off the beaten path. That's I don't remember how far it is from Atlanta, but it's not like it's a uh
well, yeah, I was talking more of the Kingdom in California, their actual
oh
headquarters at
the big one.
TaylorMade.
Okay,
Yeah, like, but like perfect example is like I don't know why they chose Reynolds Plantation. Like I don't know why it's there.
I
I
don't know
don't know
why
why
either.
Mizuno just built theirs in the middle of nowhere in Atlanta. Like how is that easy? It's not a coastal city. Whereas like
Mm-mm.
we have one of the bigger ports, so like you could actually get stuff into the port in this area. Um, it's like yeah, nothing makes sense. Like a
Have you
lot of the
looked
stuff that
into
probably goes to Atlanta comes through here. Like it,
have you looked at angel investors or do anything on your own where you could
I've talked,
get the
yeah, but
startup?
everybody wants. I always tell people it's funny, and like I'm sure companies are gonna not like to hear this, but I always tell people like you got to beat the bank. So like if I could go to the bank right now and get a loan for X amount with X% interest,
Uh-huh.
and then that also has an end date, like there's finality there. Like if I go to the bank and get a $2 million loan for 8%, like you got to come up with a better deal than that. You can't go, I want to invest a million, but I want 40%. Oh, well, the bank only wants 8. And yours is in perpetuity. The bank is for a fixed amount of time. Like your deal is a lot worse than the bank's. Like you want loan shark money. And like, I think a lot of people, they're probably used to people being, one, bad business people, and two, stupid. So willing to sign a essentially a predatory deal. Um, and I get it. They think they're taking a risk, but it's like at the end of the day, you're competing against the bank. And if the bank is willing to give a loan for the same amount for under 10%, like, then you're not getting more than 10% for the same amount of money.
Yeah, and they probably want free clubs out of it too.
But yeah, they want a lot. Like, and like, I understand their perspective. I just always tell them, I want you to understand mine. Like, I get that it's a risk for you, but like, I don't, I'm of the opinion, like, I also love what I do. And like, I've never done anything for the based on money. Like, I had
Uh-huh.
pretty good internships at, you know, call them defense contractor. Like, I could have left college if I stayed and made a lot of money making weapons and who knows what else.
Uh-huh.
Um, and chose the golf route knowing that, like, at the time, most golf pros made $30,000 a year. And if that's what I made, I was content. Like, I wanted to do something that I liked. Now, I've done a lot better than that, but, like, I've never made a decision based on money. So, like, to me, that's the funny thing is, like, what I would ask for, like, from a salary, like, I want it because it would be cool, not because I wanna make a bunch of money. Like, that's why, like, I'd rather do it with an OEM. It'd make more money to do it myself, because then I would keep all of it. But, like, I would like it'd be more like you guys cover the overhead and, like, you guys can make all the money off of it as long as I am comfortable. Like, the freedom to kinda do what I want and make whatever I want whenever I want would be the cool part.
Yeah, that's a very valuable commodity that is not very common uh, in today's world.
Yeah, and I think, like, that's the it's hard to get them to understand that, like, I don't want it's not about the money, it's, like, it's the freedom to kinda what Paul can do at Ping. Like, what those guys can do is, like, literally get to design with total free and they don't have total freedom. Like, Ping won't allow them to weld necks on putters. You'll never see a Ping putter with a welded neck,
Uh-huh.
um, because they don't like how it looks. Like, I make my own Damascus. Like, I'm pretty much the only putter maker that does that. Um, but like, I like experimenting with cool things, and I think there's obviously like the stuff sells as quick as I can make it. So there's obviously fans of it. Um, but I think bringing that, like, Odyssey just made a stainless Damascus insert on a putter. Like, I think that's awesome. Like, people asked if I was like upset because that's kind of part of my lane. And I'm like, no, because the overwhelming majority of people don't even know what that is. So, like, people being educated and learning about what that is, I think is a massive benefit. And because I make whole putters out of Damascus for
Uh-huh.
similar price that they're selling the putter that has 5% of their putter out of Damascus, like, we're not competing. Like,
And what is the benefit for your average listener or for the average listener of the Damascus to that they might
I
not
mean,
know?
it is mainly looks, like, it's cool. There are some performance benefits, um, like copper Damascus allows you to mix copper and steel, like, 2 different hardnesses of material.
Uh-huh.
So it's not at so it would be somewhere in between. It wouldn't be as soft as pure copper, but would be softer than regular steel. Um, but mostly it looks awesome. And again, because I'm not looking for the money, I want a fair for what I do, is there's plenty of putter makers that for a plain Jane putter charge more than what I charge for like a Damascus putter that has 30 hours into it. So, but like, I want to make the Damascus because like I think it's cool. Like, I make the least amount of money on the most expensive putters I sell because of the amount of time that goes into them. Like, some of the cooler mosaic patterns, which are very complicated and look like, those take 4 to 5 days to make. And I charge basically 3 times what I would charge for a normal putter,
Uh-huh.
but I can make 10 normal putters a day or more. But like, it's like from a realistic standpoint, like, the days that I'm spending making that one putter to make 3x, I can make 100x of a regular putter. Like, it's not a good use of time. I just think it's worth it because it's cool, not
Yeah, well,
because
it definitely illustrates that you're committed to the creativity and doing interesting and cool things, and not just as you said, it's not just about the money. It's about, let me see what I can do with this. How can I make something that's interesting not only to myself but the people who are going to play this. Again, going back to our discussion on businesses, it's how most businesses start, and then somewhere along the way they lose their way or they lose their path. I think what you have is very valuable. I'd be very careful on how much you're willing to give up to make it bigger.
well, that's where, like, I don't that's why I've turned down some pretty big offers is because, like, I don't need it to be big. Like, it functions as is.
Hmm.
Like, there's some things I would like that I think would be awesome opportunities. So if the right opportunity came around, I'd be all for it. But, like, the thing I value in the opportunity is the flexibility. Like, it's not about, like, I told the company, like, I don't care about my name being on the putter or being associated with it at all. Like, that's not the money that would come with it. Like, I would want money for, like, tools, like capability. Like, I would want the infrastructure for to do cool stuff more so than I would want to, like, my bank account. Like, it would be more so like what the opportunity would provide from a flexibility and kind of creative standpoint more so than, like, just straight increasing my retirement.
Hmm. More like if a young person building equity in something,
Yeah.
as opposed to just how much am I going to make in salary. It's like how much you going to give up in knowledge just for money versus how much knowledge you're going to gain, and later on you make 5 times more.
Yeah, and I like knowing the fact that, like, I'm pretty much the only so, Kari Lahose, who's in Australia, does make his own Damascus, but all he makes is straight layers, so the pattern's always just straight lines,
Hmm.
which I tell people, like, that's the kindergarten level, which it's still hard, like, that's not a slight, but, like, that's step 1. Like, that's just stack metal, squish it together, you're done his way. Like, the mosaics I do, some of those are 30,000 end up layers, and there's, like, 45 steps. And, like, the stainless stuff has to be done in a completely inert, oxygen-free environment, so, like, your complexity goes up. So I'm the only person that makes stainless Damascus because it's more complex,
Hmm.
and I'm definitely the only one who does complicated
Who,
Damascus.
who is buying those types of putters?
Honestly, because, like, people who also like knives, like, the ones who appreciate it, because, like, in the knife world, it's not abnormal. Like, there's there's still probably less than I'm gonna guess probably less than 150 guys in the world making stainless Damascus, so, like, it's
Hmm.
pretty rare, but, like, they're almost all in the knife world. Like, that's the world. But there is a decent amount of overlap of people who, like, collect high-end custom knives who those people also like really nice golf gear. Like, there's a ton of people that, like, "Oh, I play guitar, so I'm gonna get a, like, Les Paul custom, and I want something that is going to be really nice." Like, it's the same type of person that same thing orders a complete custom 1911 firearm instead of buying something from the local gun store.
Hmm.
Like, the funny thing is every market has that subset of people that is willing to pay for, um and, like, to me, what I love is, like, the people that support that just allow me to do cool stuff. Like, to me, like, that's a lot of almost all the money. Like, basically, I make Damascus on weekends. So, like, I consider that of, like, my quote unquote off time. Still working, but, like, I'm I make it on Saturdays and Sundays and then spend the rest of the week making regular stuff. But, like, that's I spend my time doing that. And to me, like, when people buy it, that just gets reinvested in because it takes, like, I have a 40-ton press that I used to make it, that
Mm.
and a fairly large forge to be able to basically, I could forge golf clubs with the tools that I have. I
Very cool.
don't,
Yeah,
but I could.
might be your next avenue of experimentation.
Uh, I mean, I have all the same thing I told when I went to golf part. I asked them about making a grip, and having a grip made that was like my design, but like I
Uh-huh.
don't have all the injection mold. And I said, like, I'll even machine the tooling because I have the machine. Like, I'll make the dies for the thing. Um, and I seemed somewhat open to it, but it wasn't like they were jumping up and down at the opportunity to.
I'm surprised they didn't, because anyone that remembers the Super Stroke when it was still a big, ugly, or big gray screw in the sides with the Allen wrench type grip, and it was out for years and nobody really did anything. I think KJ Choi was the first one to win with it, and then all of a sudden it caught on, and it is what it is today. But it's surprising that Golf Pride has opportunity to talk to somebody like you and what you can do and what you offer, probably discuss with them, knowing what one of their competitors did, and they don't jump on an opportunity to at least try it. Like, hey, let's let's put an 18-month plan together, see what you can come up with, and see how the market reacts to it. I mean, the cost for them cannot be very, as you said, the cost for other things wouldn't be high for putters. I could only imagine the cost to do some trial runs and test markets with grips would likely be even less, but the return would be greater because everyone's buying putter grips.
Yeah, and I think the I think the only hurdle, like, I'm also like, I try to look at things from everyone's perspective. So I think from their perspective, I think like the amount of market share they own is like ridiculous. Like they don't have to, they are innovating. I've been to their lab, like I've seen what they're doing. So like they're doing a great job with a lot of things. There's way more things we would agree on and be very
Uh-huh.
positive about. Um, and their facility's amazing for anyone who gets the opportunity to go visit. Um, and I can see where they're just like, yeah, but this is energy spent somewhere that we don't really need to. Like that, like they, I don't think they are complacent. Um, but I think they're very careful about the path they go down. About because like I asked about certain things, like they use a laser, and a couple other things to like basically slowly engrave the tooling for their grips. And I asked about machining it, and I think they do. I think their actual ones they use like for full production are machined.
Uh-huh.
But I asked them prototyping why they chose laser because they acted like, you know, 18 hours was relatively quick to go from like idea to being able to make it. And it's like, well, like the rough machining would take 12 minutes. Like now the difference is like the knowledge and ability of who you'd have to hire to be able to run that machine, like and program it and do all that stuff would take multiple people, probably at the scale of they and like so the cost is on the human side in training and educating
Uh-huh.
and like all that. And I'm sure that lasers are more push a button and
Let it go.
it does it. Um, like the fact that it because it takes so long and it's each pass is taking off such a small amount, it's harder to make mistakes. Like it's like it's a very I consider it a very slow process. Kind of like 3D printing is a very slow
Uh-huh.
process, relative, but I wouldn't call it foolproof. You can make mistakes, but like most people could buy a 3D printer and come out with something halfway decent in an afternoon. Like
Wow.
it's not a complicated like plastic, not doing like metal 3D printing. Like there's levels to it, but like is same thing. I think in a lot of stuff is short term versus like what are we investing for 30 years from now? And I get like it's all complicated. Like the good thing is like I make decisions based on what I want to do. And as long as I can, well, my wife has a say, but like as long as she's happy and like I can afford things, like we're good. Whereas like I get that they have to make decisions that affect thousands and thousands of people.
Uh-huh.
And like that's a different level of responsibility. So like I appreciate it. Where like I think the benefit of being small is I can be very quick. Like I can change course. Like if I just like that arachnid inspired putter came about in a day. Like I can design something, prototype it, and then have it be a production piece like very quickly. And I think because it's me who makes the decision. Like I
Yeah,
don't have,
exactly.
there's not 100 people involved. You don't have to get permission. Like I think, and that's why I think a lot of these bigger OEMs, even if they do adapt and change, it's like takes 5 to 10 years. Like it's a very, like you see it with like Callaway makes some of the better drivers now, but they had a long stretch where they weren't very good and nobody was, and then kind of Jailbreak was kind of the era that kind of swung things in their favor and they made a good
Hmm.
product. Titleist from like I would say like the 905 to probably the first like TS driver was like a big nothing.
There's a long gray area.
Yeah, where they weren't the worst, but they definitely weren't the best. Like they weren't like the, you know, and then when the TS came out, it's like, oh, 70% of the tours playing this. Like it became like oh, like we nailed it. And like I think if they're honest with themselves, the real reason is because like they threw money at it. Like they spent money on designing something that was really good.
Yeah,
And then now they
they had a
have, but like I think for a while the 905 was so good. And then I think all the subsequent drivers that came out with like the 907, the 909, they were all just kind of the rehash. It's like some of these cars that like the Mazda Miata freaking hasn't changed in 16 years.
mhm.
Like it's like they just get to like we can just keep doing. The Nissan Z is basically the same car since '03. They
The
changed the
video
headlights and the taillights, but like the understructure, like they've haven't. It's old technology. Like they haven't changed anything.
the process that Titleist went through, and they chronicled it more or less in their video on the how they made the commitment to, as you said, put money into it and who they hired and the engineers and so on. Their video on that was, I think they had a multi-series video on that on YouTube that was very interesting to watch. And it was odd that they, as you said, the years that they really, uh, I don't won't call them dark because they weren't bad drivers. They just weren't progressing at the level that they had gotten used to. Because you go back to the D was okay. Their first titanium was like Titleist coming out with titanium. After that, what was the Starship? I think was their first one going way back.
So they made so after 905, they made the 907 D1, which is the triangle
Hmm.
shaped one. Then they did a D2, which is like C shaped. And the 3 was kind of the classic teardrop. And then they made a 4, which was like the smaller, deeper faced version.
But then
I know
the
because
J
I played
the
the
J
4.
was a really good driver.
Yep.
Uh, Worked even better if you cut at least half of the hosel off. Just the playability that they shortened the hosel length. It performed way better. And
All
then
the
the
nine
K.
all the 905 stuff was good. And the 907 was good in the sense that like it wasn't worse than the 905. It was very like lateral move.
Hmm.
Looked good. And that's if you look at their irons, like the MBs and CBs haven't changed in like a decade.
Mm-mm.
But like I also think I will say commercially, I have a set in the bag over there. They're slightly from the van, so they're slightly different than the retail ones. But like I would still say the irons, if I play a set of irons that aren't ones that I made personally, it's a 612 MB. Like like they were or not whatever the latest one. Uh can't always keep track of all the numbers that go, but the latest blade that they have is the one that like I still have a set of. And I think like they're right in that like don't change what's broken, but I think that's also iron technology moving glacially slow, especially in the blade and players irons compared to drivers. And I think they got caught kind of doing the same thing with drivers is like, let's move extremely slow. And like what I've seen with putters is, in my opinion, I think a lot of the world is too much technology. Like trying to I think it's pushed mainly by marketing because if we actually look at, like, we're talking to Sasha McKinsey and these guys that testing things, like, you can hit the sweet spot by a lot, even on an old blade putter and still make the putt. Like, it's not
Hmm.
that important. And so I think they're trying to cram all this technology because it's good for marketing, um, but not necessarily like making a difference. And then I think they're making so much like modern Cameron putter, like, has a logo on every way you rotate the club has a logo on it. Like, there's not basic. They used every bit of real estate to market the product as if people didn't know what a Cameron was. Where
Uh-huh.
the funny thing is, like, I think the most beautiful putters he did were the ones he made for himself, which is telling. The I think it was pre-Mizuno and pre-Titleist is like the classic ones. They just said Cameron on the neck. The rest of the head was blank. It's like Levi's. Like that's what made
Simplicity, yes,
yeah.
is
Same
the
same
key.
thing as the original like what TI3, like those putters had like logo on the sole, tiny logo on the heel on like but you don't need the funny thing is you don't even need that. Like the elastomer dots in the cavity was all it took to know that's exactly what that putter was.
Uh-huh.
They actually could have put it out with no logo and everybody would have known that's exactly what that was. And I think
Yeah,
like I think creating that kind of brand recognition for the right ways, like something is so distinct but simple is what should happen as opposed to making it a billboard. Like I think the most brilliant thing was TaylorMade made a very traditional driver, painted it white, and there was marketing. They claimed it was
uh-huh.
like whatever, but it was because like if you saw a white driver, you knew it was TaylorMade. You didn't have to see the logo. Like it was, and Nike then did it with blue. But like it was a way to basically go and or they tried a bunch of different stuff. But it was like, oh, in a sea of black drivers, we have the most played driver on tour, but people might not know about it. But instead of putting like TaylorMade on the crown or something ridiculous, they just go like, let's paint it white. Like make it obvious from 100 yards away that that person's
Uh-huh.
playing. And the funny thing is, like Cobra came out with a white driver, people thought it was a TaylorMade. Like if you saw one on TV, you were like, he's playing a TaylorMade because like they were first to market, and like if it was white, people just made the assumption that it must be TaylorMade.
Yeah, sometimes the simplest things are the make the biggest impacts.
Yeah, I think the biggest wins that I've seen in marketing are actually usually the simple stuff.
Uh-huh.
It's not the like big crazy stuff that kind of like same thing with Odyssey did it not that long ago. It's like they stole something from is they made a red putter and Xander happened to putt well with it. But like then it became, oh, like I don't even because everybody had a fanged putter. Like a bunch of every company had a version of that putter. But if we just make ours red, everybody knows what it is. Now, some of that you got to be careful because like a lot of people don't want to putt with a red putter. And where they were smart is you didn't have to buy it in a red putter personally, but by having Xander have a red one, you knew it was an Odyssey.
Yeah, brought a lot of attention.
So like if you can convince it to be like the right color on TV, that matters. Even if
Uh-huh.
more people bought the black version or the silver version. But I think the problem is that they start trying to do that to like the general public and push audit like and that's why like I think would be cool is like I'd love to do the experimental side except like the kingdom like it's for tour players and people that want to spend money for the experience but kind of like designed for retail but then treat this other thing where it's experimental but it's not experimental at the retail level which does carry risk because you're going to put marketing and money behind it and time and if it fails you just lost 18 months whereas
Uh-huh.
like being experimental on the niche side and have that be a separate thing, I think allows you to push things that end up kind of probably like feeding into the retail stuff eventually, but it's kind of almost never meant to be sold in stores. Like it's just kind of like going like we're gonna try some stuff, especially with the best and if it hits, that will push the retail stuff.
Yes, it's the spawning of the retail
Yeah, it's like
or
the
the
original
accelerator.
yeah, it's like the original Spider. They had no plans of making it to retail eventually, but like when it came out on tour, there was no infrastructure built for them to end. And then JB Holmes wins like the first week it's on tour, and every golf store in America was called like, "When can we get one?"
Huh.
And where the problem was the rollout was like in like months. Like, we don't have it ready. Like, it's not ready. And like, that's where the flaw is. You can produce something so good the and something is weird like delayed, like the jailbreak 380 that literally went off the market because they couldn't sell it. And then Ricky wins with it and Wyndham wins with it. And then they have to reissue it at 3 times what the original cost. Like then they almost made more money. Like they got to sell it for $1,000. And it was a putter they couldn't sell 2 years earlier.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. But it's like that's where I think risk is worth it is because like you don't know what's going to pop off. And I think I actually think pushing the boundaries to be more simple and classic, like I think everything comes back around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like what you're seeing now is like in the NFL, everything was wide receivers passing game and a couple teams zagged, Baltimore Ravens especially, and we're like, cool, they got these undersized linebackers and DNs that are all about pass rush and handling wide receivers and like slot receivers and go, dude, if we just line up Derrick Henry, he's bigger than all of their defensive, like they can't stop him. Like it was like, we're going to zag because they built their game around something else. And then we're just going to do the opposite. And it's kind of like, I think the first one to make really classic blades that look good when it comes back around is going to be in the prime position to like take over the market.
Well, I hope yours is one that people gravitate to.
And even if they don't, like I'm fine being in the niche. Like I sell enough to more than cover my basis. And like
That's a
same thing,
good
it's
thing.
like investing in myself. Like the machine I have in my shop cost almost as much as what we paid for our house.
Mm.
And like that was a hard check to write. But and I did it during COVID, which was an even harder check to write. But it's already more than paid for itself. Like it's already paid off. So like it's what and like then as we go on, it'll probably last 20 years. It's like cool, it's already covered. Like it's not like there's a lot of upfront cost, but like the
Uh-huh.
nice thing is that basically even if I stay the same, everything's getting more profitable every single day because it's all being paid. Like the cost is going down. My cost is going down even if income stays the same. So like I'm perfectly comfortable, which allows me the flexibility to make cool stuff and try different stuff. Is that to me, I'm not chasing every dollar to try to make.
No, that's why I say you're in an envious position of many who are probably going to hear this. Whether they're in the corporate world or they're entrepreneurs or they're in the golf business coaching and they're at a facility and they don't have that type of freedom. What you have is it's very difficult to put a dollar amount on that.
Yeah, and I think I mean, what I would tell people though is like it's like for instance, what I think makes me different is like I do. So most putter makers and I'm gonna let this out that even most of the custom putter makers out there don't make their own products. Outsource everything, basically order blank heads, stamp them, maybe
Uh-huh.
finish them. But they don't actually make anything themselves. Um, there are some people that then do the machining, but like aren't good at CAD or programming, so they outsource that part. Like I do everything in house. So like hot black oxide is in my garage at my house. Um, which is like I use the same stuff that Smith and Wesson uses. So like I have like not what you would normally expect to see in a residential garage, but like I pride myself in that like it would be cheaper and probably easier to outsource everything, but like I do every step is done by me personally. Like I don't have any employees, like I do everything. So from design to manufacturing to finishing, absolutely everything is done. Assembly, like every grip that's put on a putter, I do it. And I think there's not much competition because it's hard. Like you have to amass a certain number of skills. Like in a normal machine shop, there's a person that's doing the CAD work that hands it off to another person that's doing the programming, the CAM for the machining. Then there's a guy who operates and runs the machine. And there's a guy who does the finishing work. Like all those jobs in a machine shop are 6-figure jobs. And so like a lot of other companies, it'd be expensive to train somebody or hire somebody that's already good. And like, it's an enviable position, but I had to learn, like, and I'm self-taught. Like, I taught myself how to do all of it, but like someone else could do it, but it's hard. Like, you'd have to learn how to do, and I think it's probably easier if you do have those skills, just go work for someone else, making six figures a year doing one of those things instead of doing what I do, where you have to, like, you're in control of everything, which is good and bad. Like, it can be stressful because you have to literally wear every hat.
Well, I'm sure something's gonna click because I had Bill Holowati on, who's the president of Mura, and learning the story of the Mura company when they were making a lot of forgings for a lot of OEMs, and then eventually he's looking around his shop and said, "Well, I'm doing this for everybody else. Why don't I just do my own?" And obviously that's worked out very well. Um, yeah, I see similarities with what he could do and what his quality and commitment to that and everything else, and making things that nobody else wanted to pay attention to. Niches created by companies, just as we've talked many times throughout the show, um, the inability to do that, and then here now he's formed one of the best iron companies in the world. I think it's not, is it going to happen for you? It's like when. And if
Yeah.
it ends up
And
being your own, you just keep funding your own thing, then even takes longer if it's organic, but it also is a better return and better for you in the end, likely. But I think anyone that listens to this and looks at your work and follows your material is going to say, "Holy shit, this is really interesting, cool stuff."
yeah, and I try to do it at a price point that's, I mean, frankly, I'm half the price of pretty much every competitor that other than China. But like
Hmm.
any like actual like person, uh, I'm undercutting them, and not because I'm trying to be like whatever, but like I think the difference is like I have the skills to be able to do everything in house. So like a lot
Hmm.
of makers don't weld their own stuff, so they're paying somebody $100 an hour or more to come in and weld next. So they're outsourced their finishing to some other company, and they're having to pay, you know, like NorCal charges whatever $200 to do per putter to do the finish that I do in my garage. So like the headache of wanting to invest the time and energy to learn how to do all those things on the front end, but then the benefit is that one, I'm not relying on anybody else time frame. Like everything is however fast I can do it. Um, but it's also cheaper because I'm not paying anybody else. Like I don't have
Hmm.
to. It was more expensive from a time perspective and like a skill development perspective, but once you have it, it's much cheaper in the long end to be able to do everything. And even if someday it grows where I have to hire somebody where, like I tell people, having the ability and having done absolutely everything will still make me better, even if I'm not the one actually doing
Hmm.
everything, because I'll understand every part of the business by having at one point done every part of.
Yeah, make you a better manager, CEO, whatever position
Yeah.
you take in the future. You have a great understanding of each segment. As far as people want to reach out to you, they want to get a putter from you, they want to get a fitting or a lesson or work on their putting or their full swing or whatever it is they want to do. Uh, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
The nice thing is my name is somewhat unique. So basically, I think if you Google my name, I got the first 6 pages on Google. Um, so they're all so like if you Google if you throw my name into Instagram, there's multiple accounts. So you'll see the knife account, putter account, like golf swing account, but they're pretty much all me. It's a general rule. If you find something with my name on it, they're not. I'm not the real. There's a realtor. Like that's not me. But a lot of the a lot of the hits are going to be me. And like pretty easy to get a hold of. And my pricing is straightforward. Like it's amazing how many people text me and say the website is confusing. Um, because the store it's based on material and basically it's all material, but material and size. So like it's carbon steel blade, stainless steel blade, carbon steel mallet, stainless steel mallet. And they'll be like, well, it doesn't have the picture of the putter I'm ordering. doesn't, is it a mallet or is it a blade? Like the pricing is like very straightforward, and there's no nickel and diming of like, oh, adding a line cost $100 or like
Uh-huh.
anybody that's doing that tells me they didn't make the head. Because like when you program the head, it doesn't take me any more time to program a line versus anything else. So it tells me they probably don't have the ability to change it on the fly. So like in the programs that I have literally a program for every variation. So like at this point, I don't have, it's which one I right click and save.
Uh-huh.
Um, but that'll like to me the ordering process is pretty, like you order basically the generic placeholder, and then I reach out and we go over all the specs that somebody would want if they know their specs. If not, we can try to figure out what those are.
And your best places to follow you on social media?
Um, Most active on Instagram. Um, I do have Facebook pages, but they literally are just linked to like I post on Instagram and it reposts to other places. But like the native starting place is Instagram.
Okay. And everybody knows, if you're a listener, if you're a first time listener, we'll have all of Dan's information, one click links in the summary to his website and his social media. I highly recommend checking out the beautiful work he does. And we could talk for hours on end, and I want to get into more. But it's good that you only live a couple hours down the interstate. And as things slow down up here a little bit more, I might reach out to you and come down and make a visit and bug the hell out of you. And we can have more discussion. And we're definitely going to have to do these a couple more times.
Sounds good. I've been promising that I make a trip up to South Carolina to do a fitting day. So hasn't haven't been able to work out the time to do any of that yet, but hopefully can go up there and make it a group get together.
Yes, absolutely. Keep me posted on when that might happen. If I can do anything to help you, reach out anytime. Uh,
Sounds good.
Hang out just a minute, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. God bless, and we will see y'all next time.